would like to tell you a story a little bit. Maybe one of them could be one of my favorite ones. It's a story called The Sower and the Seeds. And Jesus used to tell stories to the people. One of the stories I remember from growing up, it stayed with me for a very long time. It goes like this, that there was once a sower, a farmer, let's say a farmer, went out to scatter some seeds, to throw some seeds that they may grow on his farmland. But as he was going about, he put his hand in his bag, and then he would scatter seeds. But using his hand, some seeds just fell on the wayside, like on the ground. And quickly, the birds came and saw them because there was no protection for those seeds, and they ate them quickly and flew away. But the farmer continued. Again, he's scattering some seeds. Fell in rocky places, stony places. Now, those seeds that fell on the stony places, actually, they sprouted. They started to grow. No, but as soon as the sun came out, it became very hot, because these seeds didn't have strong roots. They were not rooted properly because they're amongst the stones. Then as soon as the sun came, they didn't have any power, no stamina. So quickly they got dried up and they died right there. And that was the end of those seeds. Then he said that there are some seeds that fell amongst the thorny places where there are weeds and so on. Now, these seeds, they grew up, and they grew along with the thorns. They grew up together, but gradually the weeds overtook them, stifled them, you see, and then those seeds actually didn't go any further. They died. They were overwhelmed by the power of the weeds. But some seeds fell on good ground, and those seeds, they took hold, and quickly they started to grow. They had good light, good soil, and rain, so they grew, and they became mighty trees, so great that all the animals could come and rest underneath their canopy and eat their fruits, enjoy the flowers. They became mighty. So anyway, when Jesus was with his disciples, they asked him, "What is the meaning of this story, Lord? What is it, the meaning?" "Let me explain," he said. He said, the farmer is sowing the seeds, and the seeds is like the word of God, represents the word of God. Okay? And the word of God has got to find good ground. It has to enter into the hearts of a true seeker of truth. As the farmer, who in this case is like a prophet or a holy person, he's sowing the seeds, no? And some seeds, they fell on the ground, like if you imagine on a concrete ground or asphalt or something like that. And because they had no protection at all, they could not live there. Quickly the birds came and they ate them. So these are the people who hear the word, but before it could even go into their heart properly, the birds ate them, meaning they became distracted very easily. And so nothing came of that word that fell on the hard place. Some seeds fell in stony places, rocky places. Now, those seeds, they touch a little bit of earth also, and they quickly respond, and they're growing. They look like they're coming up. And these represent the people who, when they hear the word, immediately they are inspired, and they feel, you see. But when the sun comes up means when there is some adversity, when trials and tribulation come, because they don't have the the foundation. They're not rooted. Remember, stony places, they're not rooted. The word hasn't taken hold inside their heart. Then as soon as some trials, some little difficulties come, you see, immediately they collapse, and the word doesn't go any further. It doesn't grow inside them. Some seeds fell amongst the weeds, where the thorns and the brambles are. Okay? And for a while they are growing. They're in earth also. And they are growing together with the brambles and the weeds and so on. They're growing together. But the weeds, the brambles are much stronger, you see. And gradually they overcome these seeds, and they also perish. They did not come to their full potential. What did that mean? This meant, in Jesus' explanation, these are people who hear the word of truth, and it's really touched their heart. And it's growing inside them. But these people are living maybe in an environment where there's a lot of concerns about job and feeding their family, and there's struggles amongst their friendship, and so many things are a struggle for them. That's the weeds. That represents the weeds and the brambles. And there's so much going on. If they can afford this, can they do that? But it's really their minds also. So they haven't really fully trusted in the word. You know, it's touched them. They're growing more and more, but they haven't matured sufficiently. So when trials and tribulations come as well too, in the form of, difficulties in the family, not being able to pay your bills and so on, so because they are not established, then these things overpower them, and they also frustrated. The word doesn't germinate and bear fruit. But finally, some seeds fell on good soil, what the farmer intended to. Fell on good soil, and these seeds, they really thrive. They grow. The sun does not torture them. They respond to the sun because their roots are firm, meaning that they are established in the word. And so the plants, they grow and they grow and they grow. And the rain comes. The rain more strong, they grow. The winds come and grow, but they come back and they're strong. And they can imagine, eventually they become great trees, powerful trees, so much so that even perhaps the animals come now and they can sleep in the shade. People take shade under these trees. They enjoy their flower, you see. And even the birds come in the trees and so on. So, and they bear fruit, so everybody can eat. So this tree represents those people when the word comes inside their heart. It really reaches inside their heart, and it really takes off. It really, really flourishes inside the heart, and it grows into wisdom, into great understanding, great faith, and great trust in God, and great love for truth. Mighty, they grow into mighty trees, so that later when they're established, others can come and take shelter in them. So other people who get distressed and who find things difficult will come and take shelter in their mighty presence, you see. They have a mighty presence. They're shade, they're strong, they're true, they're full. And so that is that parable. And for a long time, I felt these were different types of people. And it can be used as an example of different types of people. But gradually I grew also in understanding about these things, and by grace of God also, I came to see that these can also be seen, this parable, as different stages in the life of one person. So that's it. That is the story, one of my favorite stories from the Bible. And there are many. There are many stories like that. Beautiful, beautiful. Over the years, this has come back from time to time, that I could reflect upon it. And I saw how the power of those parables when they really landed inside the heart stream, how powerfully they become. Most of us are forced to stay at home, and what better way to be at home than to be reminded of the truth of our most inmost being. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy Easter today. God bless you. In Jesus' name today, thank you, thank you, thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Very good.